Welcome back to Foundry Talks. I'm Rachel Stoyanovsky, and in today's episode, I am joined by Elizabeth Mullins, who is the president of Evermore Hospitality. Elizabeth has had such an impressive career in this industry and also a lifelong passion for the hospitality space, one that really started at the age of 5 when her dad took her to afternoon tea at the Ritz Carlton in Boston. She's worked for luxury hospitality companies, including the Ritz Carlton and Disney, and now Evermore Hospitality, and shared such practical and really insightful insights. One thing that really stood out to us that we loved was hearing her talk about being the architects of memory making and how, regardless of your product, even if it's outdated, creating exceptional service and exceptional memories for guests is really what will set you apart. If you are in this space and love to travel, we think this will really resonate with you. So let's get into it. Welcome back to Foundry Talks. I'm Rachel Stoyanovsky, and today I am thrilled to be joined by Elizabeth Mullins, who is the president of Evermore Hospitality. So, Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure being with you. And right after the holidays, what a way to kick off the new year. Thank you for having me.
Exactly. You are our first guest of the second season of Foundry Talks, so we're so thrilled to have you with us. And just for those listening, if you want to kick us off with a quick little personal intro, and then we'll jump into it.
Yeah, so I am best known as a lifelong hotelier. That's who I am. And when I say lifelong, I mean it. I got into the business because my dad brought me to afternoon tea at the Ritz Carlton in Boston. To be honest, he actually was taking me to the Nutcracker Ballet.
Okay.
And I was excited. I was all dressed up. I had on my little shiny shoes and a cute little beret hat. And off we went to Boston, and we got there and we stopped at the Ritz Carlton, and it was decorated for the holidays. So it smelled of cinnamon and pine, and my little shoes click clocked against the marble. And we walked into the tea lounge, and there was someone playing the harp. So I heard the music of the harp. I tasted the scone. I drank hot chocolate. I smelled the cinnamon and pine. And I looked at my dad and said, "Daddy, this is what I want to do." And he said, "No, this is very different than what you want to do. This is how you want to feel. And how you want to feel is not what you want to do. Those are two different things." And I remember trying to process this. But I was stubborn. And I looked right back at him and said, "No, this is what I want to do."
And
so
how old were you?
I was 5.
5. Oh my gosh.
I was 5. Like, I just felt it in my bones that this was the best thing I had ever seen, been to, felt, all of that. So he was right. It is the way I wanted to feel.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to feel that way in my work life. I didn't know that then, but I certainly know that now.
Yeah.
And so now it came time to go to college. And my dad said, "I'm going to get a hotel degree." And he was like, "Absolutely not. If you want my help with college, you can get a hotel degree, but it better be backed up with a business degree."
Okay.
So I was able to figure out a path to both. And
Amazing.
after I graduated, 6 days after my college graduation, I started at that same hotel, the Ritz Carlton in Boston, as a management trainee and worked my way up from there. I just, Ritz was little back then. It's had 6 or 7 hotels, and
I can't even imagine. My gosh.
Right? So it was a tiny little company back then, but boy, were we passionate about just making service the predominant feature in everything we did. And so I grew up with Ritz. Ritz grew up with me. And, 20 plus years later, I got a funny call from the Walt Disney Company, where I had been running the Ritz Carlton Central Park and was an area vice president. And Central Park was awarded best hotel in the United States. And there was a story written about me, and people from Disney read the story. Wow. And so they ended up cold calling me. And I was like, "Disney, do they even have hotels?" Like, girl, how do I know? But I found myself overseeing 54,000 hotel rooms across the globe from a corporate standpoint and from a development standpoint. And then I also spent a lot of time in the businesses that dealt with the affluent consumer. And I did that for 7 years. And to be honest, it was such a special time because the company is so amazing.
Yeah.
And what they do is so amazing. And I learned incredible scale, and operating with at scale like that is very different.
Yeah.
And I'd come out and I'd go, "Okay, I need to do I need to upgrade or install all of the Wi-Fi for the hotels in Orlando, 32,000 rooms. The amount of
Gosh.
cable would have wrapped around the world once, right? Like
Wow.
it's just crazy stuff like that
Yeah.
that you do. And I did that for 7 years, and then I made a list for myself, and on that list was I always wanted to open an independent and
Yeah.
just really go after the ultra luxe
Yeah.
affluent consumer, open a brand where, no, I wasn't going by anybody else's script. I was going by my own.
Yeah.
And so that's when I met Alex, who is the owner and founder of Lenore Hospitality. And I left and joined Alex as his chief operating officer and managing director of the Fifth Avenue Hotel in New York. And as I
Amazing.
was making this decision, I walked that hotel. I walked inside and thought, this is the prettiest little jewel box I've ever seen.
I
And it just
love that.
captured me. And so Alex and I had great fun together. I mean, we launched with 2 Michelin stars and 50 best in the restaurant, 50 best in the lounge, and 50 best in the hotel. So it was just this
Incredible.
whirlwind of accolades. I give him all the credit because it was just so pretty. Really is. It's
Yeah.
so pretty. And it was wonderful. And then weirdly, this job came knocking. And I'll tell you, people don't know this, but when I was with Disney, we had looked at the site that Evermore is on. And I was
Wow.
brand new at Disney and I
Yeah.
was intrigued by this site. I thought it was beautiful and I really wanted it. And when,
Yeah.
they went a different direction, obviously. But
Yeah.
now Evermore is being built. I'm still with Disney and I had lived down the road from the
Oh my
resort
gosh.
and I would see some press on it that said, we now broke ground on this Crystal Lagoon.
Right.
And I would pull over and walk up the berm and look over to see what was being built. I was so curious.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, yeah. And so they found me by just coming into the fifth. I was on the
Yeah.
floor. We met each other, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. And they said, do you know about Evermore? I said, I have been stalking Evermore since it was founded. I have no idea what they wanted. And yet here I am. So
Yeah. I love it. Wow. Well, and then the rest is history. So you've been with Evermore for how long now?
just 3 months.
Just 3 months.
Just 3 months,
Amazing.
yes. It's amazing,
Wow.
and it's such an honor to be, their first president and to grow what we hope to become a really important and special brand.
Yeah. Well, and how full circle that this was a property you had already been exposed to years
Oh,
ago. It seems like divine intervention.
yeah, it probably was,
Yeah.
because otherwise it couldn't have gotten me out of New York City, which is my favorite city in the world, right? So
Yeah.
that alone is just mystifying.
Yeah. So I love the story of going to the Ritz as a little girl with your dad and just that feeling of like, okay, no, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. Was there at any point along your career where you realized like, did that passion always stick with you? I guess is my question. Or was there a point where you're like, oh, maybe I'm not so sure? Or did you just have this lifelong love affair with hotels and the industry?
So I'll be brutally honest and tell you I'm the lucky one that had the lifelong love affair.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I didn't have my fair share of bad days, bad
Yeah.
weeks, right? I 100% did. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I got every promotion that I wanted. There were a million that passed me over. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that there wasn't trial and tribulation and I had to move 14 times and lived all over the world. And
Mhm.
I had a young child at the time, and so that
Yeah.
was always hard. But I look back and go, for all of these decades, and crazy enough, it's decades now.
Yeah.
I've had this passionate love affair. I mean, other than my family, it's my greatest love.
Yeah.
And how
Amazing.
lucky a person is to get to actually say that, to say,
Truly.
I love my job so much. I never do the same thing 2 days in a row. I
Yeah.
get to be creative. I get to do so many things. There were moments like when I left Ritz after 20
Yeah.
plus years and moved to Disney where I realized I had outgrown the job that I was in and needed
Mhm.
stretch and push and all of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
moments like that, but I can't imagine, I don't know, all of a sudden becoming a banker or I
Right.
mean, I can't I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
It's just so amazing and just so magical, and I'm sure that that passion and just, like, the authenticity that you show up for work and your positions really has trickled down to your team, which is something I wanna talk about later.
Okay.
From everything from the Ritz to Disney, have you learned about how maybe, or is there something that has kind of changed your perspective about the guest experience?
Yeah, I think because I've been doing this for a long time, I think the guest has changed. And
Mm,
so as the guest, sometimes we call it the consumer, has changed over time,
yeah.
we as hoteliers have had to adapt to that changing mindset.
Yeah.
Usually not we're not in front of the curb, we're behind the curb chasing it. Usually that's where we are. But if I go back to when I started, hotel
Mhm,
rooms were always better than home.
mhm.
Right? I mean, you had turn down service and your sheets were better and your television
Yeah.
was better. You could call for in-room dining and your shower experience was better.
Yeah.
And now it's not always like that. I
Yeah.
mean, right? So it's hard to actually say, all right, how do I become better for you
Right.
to make sure that your stay has value? And that
Yeah.
value comes in terms of trust and memories and all
Yeah.
of these things. And so through the decades, I've learned what the consumer wants and have been able to adapt to that while
Yeah.
still hanging on to what is tried, true, and real. And those things
Mhm.
are service always wins. Service
Yeah.
from the heart, there's nothing better than that. If you
Yeah.
surround your people that just want to make your guests happy, you're going to win every time. You can't
Yeah.
cut your way to prosperity. You actually have to grow your way to prosperity. So all of those
Yeah.
things haven't changed for 30 years,
Yeah.
right? They've maintained. And
Yeah.
we've just as hoteliers kind of gone along for the ride. And part of the fun of what we do is we get to go, okay, I'm still in the driver's seat. I'm not in the
Mhm.
passenger seat. So how am I actually going to drive this race differently than I did last year, or the year
Yeah.
before? And how am I going to win the game?
Yeah, we talk about that perceived value. And, if you don't have budget for a renovation, maybe your rooms are getting a little tired, but every year rates go up. So then what can you do for that guest to have a perceived sense of value or an increase in value so that they feel okay paying a higher rate if they came last year and they paid a lot less? Are there
Yeah,
any tricks or things that
it's
you
all
feel like are,
experiential. It's
yeah,
all experiential. It's personalization and
yeah.
experiences. Those two things are really, really what wins. I told you that I was running the Ritz Carlton Central Park when Disney found me. And what's
Mhm,
interesting about that one is we were well overdue for a renovation. Yet we were
mhm.
able to win the number one hotel in the United States. And
Incredible.
that's because the team there, the service was so profoundly good.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story. I remember there was a lawyer that used to come in. He was a regular. He came in to do his casework like 3 days a week, every single week, probably 3 weeks out of the month. And this went on
Yeah.
for years. So the team knew him really well. And he would typically, to de stress, he would paint. And so he
Interesting.
always got a Central Park view room and he would
Yeah.
have his easel set up and he would paint every day.
Yeah.
And one day the housekeeper went into the room and it was New York City's first snow of the year. And he had started to paint on his easel the first snow overlooking the park. And it was
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, she had an idea. She didn't tell anybody this, but she went down to see the pastry chef. And she took a picture on her phone of what was on the
Wow.
easel. The pastry chef finished what was on the easel, but in chocolate. And
Gosh.
so then they brought up next to the painting on the easel, put their own little easel of the painting now in chocolate next to it. When the man came down, the man literally, he's this brutal trial attorney, was
Right.
in tears because of, the passion that the housekeeper had just to
Yeah.
create something magical.
Well,
And
and
that's what
just
she
for
did.
the thought. So,
Right?
in some of your LinkedIn posts, you've talked about selecting people who are happy to serve. And you mentioned that again, like service just has to be unparalleled. And that is what a guest will remember, regardless of what the product is like. So, how do you identify those types of candidates?
You use the right word. It's identify because you don't find them, you identify them, right? They
Yeah.
have that skill. But I remember opening the Ritz Carlton in Sarasota, which was the home of Barnum and Bailey Circus.
Yeah.
And there was a quote for Barnum and Bailey. He was talking to a reporter, and she was reporting about how his little dogs could stand on top of those beach balls and make them turn, right? And she said, how do you teach those dogs to do that? And he looked at her almost, confused and said, I don't teach them. I find the ones that actually could stand on the ball and make the
And
ball
do it.
turn. And that's the exact same thing we do with talent.
Yeah.
We teach them to a certain, we can teach technical, but you can't teach service from your heart. You
Yeah.
have to find those.
Yeah.
But when you lean in close and say, tell me about a time that you made someone's day, could be something small, it could be something grand. Tell me what it is. And when they lean back and they say, I actually captured this gentleman's painting in chocolate, you have someone that like
Yeah.
just loves service from the heart. And you get enough
Yeah.
of those people that actually represent your hotel, your brand, your company, and
Yeah.
it's infectious.
Yeah.
And so that's the winning game. You know if people like people, right? You
Yeah.
you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's not all the questions you ask, but you can feel it if they really
Yeah.
mean that they want to take care of someone and they will do whatever it takes to make sure that their stay is right. That's the dream team right there.
Yeah. So maybe you have an answer for this, maybe not. But I think that at least my time working in house, there was kind of always this fine line between, well, what can I do to make someone's stay exceptional? Or I feel like this would be something really special to do for this guest, but do I have the authority to do that? Any tips or tricks for those listening to really kind of empower your team to think outside the box of things like that? Obviously, don't go sending champagne to every single room in the house, but just thoughtful ways like how any tips from you?
So it's really interesting. Back in the day, when Horst Schulze was running the Ritz Carlton Hotel Company, he
Mm.
had a rule of empowerment, which was anybody
Yeah.
was empowered up to $2,000 a day to
Love
satisfy the
that.
guests. And people always ask me about this, but literally in my 20 plus year career with them,
Yeah.
that happened twice that someone used it, right? The
Right.
other times, what it did is give people permission to take action in their own hands.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest challenge we face is we don't give permission enough
Mm.
because I would guess that 95% of the time, people are going to make the right choices. And
Yeah.
if they don't, that extra 5% of the time, it's a discussion that says, hey, maybe you didn't have to comp the entire stay, right? Because he didn't like his apple. You could have gotten the apples that he liked. So maybe it's that. But literally, I think it's just you've got to trust your team and believe in them. And what
Yeah.
I've learned over the years is that they're going to surprise you every time in a really
Yeah.
good way.
Yeah. I love that. And I think I think that's how you build that culture by, letting your team know that you do trust them, because then I think that makes them want to exceed and do better and better and better and come up with all of these different ideas and different things to
That's
do.
right.
I love that.
That's right. I think the vision is yours and is shared, and how to
Mhm.
get to the vision is your team's.
Yeah.
And I do think that it's surprisingly good.
Yeah. And I think we forget too, often your team is the one that has the majority of the guest face time.
They do.
Oftentimes you as the leader aren't going to be interacting with them every single day for hours on end, but your team does. And so I think that just goes back to what you said, trusting your people, because they know what the interaction has been. They
Yeah.
have a better feel for it.
They're so lucky they get to be in the thick of it all the time.
So, when you maybe inherit a team versus building a team from scratch, what are some ways that you have been able to positively shift the culture if it maybe wasn't the best?
Yeah. And so, culture is a beautiful thing and it comes through all of the things that we already spoke about. It comes
Yeah.
through having a strong vision. It comes from, actually pushing people to reach because
Mhm.
people like to grow. They may
Yeah.
not articulate that, but they do. I mean, they're
Yeah.
doing this for a reason and that's to grow.
Yeah.
And then I do think that you setting that vision and stepping out of their way tells an awful lot because people
Yeah.
can perform or they don't perform. And then you can make some decisions about that.
Yeah.
Culture is a beautiful thing. And when it actually comes to life, it truly becomes the backbone of everything that your hotel does. And so it's
Yeah.
critically important. I always think it's easier. So I've opened a bunch of hotels and it's easier when you get to hand select everybody, right?
Of
Like it's
course.
easier. And when you go and inherit another team, generally speaking, they're 90% really, really good.
Yeah.
And probably
Yeah.
the old me somewhere would have been struggling with the same 10% that
Yeah.
I'm identifying. And so you take action, you try to teach, you try to train, you give the right amount of chances, and then some won't stay with you and some will. But
Yeah.
the 90% are the ones that you can actually take to the moon.
Yeah.
They're the ones that will make you truly successful. And they
Yeah.
were doing that even before your arrival. You might just have sharpened the vision, but
Yeah.
they already had the talent to
Yeah.
turn it on. I also say that, people come into properties. We change properties all the time as hoteliers, and people come into them at the right time in the right
Mhm.
place. And the people that were before were also in at the right time in the right place. So you kind of have to give grace to what was
Yeah.
before as you start to make it and recalibrate it as your own.
Yeah.
Recently, not recently, I guess it's 3 or 4 years now, Rand came across of a company called the Empowered Company, and they're out of the
Interest
UK, and
Okay.
they measure culture. And I have to
Wow.
tell you, when
How
I found this
fascinating.
company, yes, instead of doing employee engagement surveys, they do cultural health surveys,
Oh
and
my
they
gosh,
do
which
them,
is way
like,
better because
way
who's ever
better,
even 100% honest on those employee
right?
engagement surveys?
And honestly, the way that they have it and the way you need to follow up with only 3 simple points, like, I look back and go, "Where was this 20 years ago?"
Yeah.
Because it's magic what you can do when you start measuring your culture. And
Love
so I
that.
told you earlier that I've only been here 3 months, yet next month is when we start measuring our culture. And
Love
so
it.
then, and look, we are where we are, wherever that,
Yeah.
then you take that and you go, "How are we gonna get better?" And we'll learn so much from it, right? And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it.
Love that. And one thing I was gonna say too is I would love to get your thoughts on I think there can be a strong amount of learning from inheriting a team because you may be new to the property, but most hotels have team members that have worked there for years, if not decades. So I think also kind of leaning on them can also be powerful for a leader.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It is a balance between the institutional knowledge, which you wanna
Mhm.
keep, right? That's so
Yeah.
important to understand the backstory, but you can't get burdened by the history. We've
Mm.
tried that 16 times, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe it just wasn't the time to try it back then, but it is now.
Yeah.
So I think there's a really great balance of learning
Yeah.
from those people that follow you and
Mhm.
continue on their journey with you. And you're right, they have so much to teach you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, now with Evermore, you're leading a completely new category, what you call residential hospitality. So, what's the biggest challenge in educating the market about something that is a little bit different and maybe doesn't check all those traditional boxes?
Yeah. So I was reading Skift yesterday, and Skift had its 5 key trends in hospitality. And number 5 was that the luxury consumer is traveling more and more as families and groups.
Hmm.
Right? So, yeah, there's still solo travel, and there's the times that you're traveling by yourself for business or at a couple's trip. But
Yeah.
more and more people are bringing along their families, and
Hmm.
more people are actually spending time together as a friend group.
Yeah.
And so we recognized that trend and really capitalized on it. And so, what are hotels doing on this today? Well, they're looking at things like more connecting rooms, larger suites. Like, if you look at the development
Yeah.
trends, you see that on all the development trends. Instead of doing that, and we do have the Conrad, right? So,
Yeah.
Dart Interests owns the Conrad that's on the site. That's who I work for. But what really happened was, how do we actually build a better mousetrap? How
Yeah.
do we build for this trend to begin with?
Yeah.
And so, look, I will travel if I'm with a group and get an Airbnb or VRBO,
Yeah.
whatever, right? I will
Yeah.
do that. Sometimes it's hotels, sometimes it's that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want that togetherness space.
Yeah.
And so you end up going to a home share, but there's a couple things. Number one, there's always tons of personalization in these homes. And you're like,
Yeah.
I see another picture of cousin Jerry on the wall, right? Or you either get the right amount of bedrooms, but you don't have the right amount of bathrooms, or you get the right amount of bedrooms and the common space, you don't have enough for people to sit down, right? Like,
Right.
it's always a trade-off,
Mismatched.
always. And so what if you could build these accommodations from the ground up and make sure that every single bedroom is essentially a primary bedroom with an en-suite bathroom.
Love
And
it.
that you purpose build your accommodations for the little ones with cool
Yeah.
bunks and ladders and fun and slides
Love
instead of
it.
staircases and things like
Yeah.
that. And then what if every bedroom had its own bathroom so they really were all the same and
Yeah.
everybody had their own space? And then what if you said our kitchen, it's an 11-bedroom house that could fit 24 people. The kitchen needs to be on scale to
Yeah.
cook for 24 people. So you have double refrigerators and you have a
Love
kitchen
it.
island that's massive and you have a couch and a living
Yeah.
room concept that sits 24 and you have gamification on every floor with arcades and movie theaters and everything you
It's
could
magical,
want,
like, everything you could think
right?
of.
And so, listen, I was on the development side for Disney, as I told you, for a number of years. And when I came to Evermore and saw what they had developed, I was like, oh my God, you so outdeveloped me. And so this is literally about leaning into what togetherness means. And
Right.
so it's being built for that. And then, by the way, in the middle of our destination, so you've got villas and you've got 2 to 4 bedroom flats. And then you've got homes that are from 5 bedrooms to 11 bedrooms. And these are all around a huge crystalline lagoon that is called Evermore Bay. And so that
Amazing.
also is a space for togetherness because you could be
Yeah.
together by the bay. But you could walk solo around the bay. And so
Yeah.
literally this is taking everything you like from a home share, Airbnb, VRB, or what have you,
Yeah.
and taking all the wonderful attributes of a resort destination. So, and pulling that all together into one. So we purpose built what new travel looks like.
Incredible.
So,
It's, like,
right?
custom
So
made. I love
that's
it.
right. That's right. You listen, I look and say what my boss, Chris Kelsey and Dart Interest did was really revolutionary in this space. I certainly wouldn't have had the guts to do it, and they did it. And yet here I sit because I really think that they're onto something, or we're
Yeah.
onto something now very, very special. And I love that. I love that we actually make it easy for you to travel together.
It's amazing, and we have this same me as a traveler, I mean, I traveled with family for Thanksgiving, and it feels like we always have a trade-off. Okay, do we get the Airbnb, but then, like, risk uncomfortable beds? Maybe, like, we rely on concierge service a lot for recommendations of things to do in the area, or it's nice to have room service with little kids if someone's
Yes,
hungry at 9 o'clock, or and so to have those modern conveniences all be combined, it really is the best of both worlds, and it's on my list for
absolutely.
sure.
And now imagine if your room service for little kids could be things like mixologists and grill masters, because you've got a grill as
Yeah,
part of your outside, which also every home has a pool. So
amazing.
literally you get all the we'll stock your fridge for you. Yeah, we can make you
Yeah,
the club sandwich, but we will, right? We will do all these other things so that you actually have time to vacation. We don't want you to have to think about it.
I love that. That's just amazing. When you faced setbacks or maybe pushback in your career, what are some things that have helped you move forward?
First of all, I face setbacks all the time. I still do. People say no to me every day. I can't imagine why, but they do. And so the first thing is to have resilience.
Yeah.
It's a business, so there's no hard feelings. So
Mhm.
literally you have to have resilience. If I don't get something across the line, I typically look and go, it's on me. What could I have done differently? So I won't give
Mhm.
up, but I'll come back with using another argument or more data, or
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or I'll pause on it because maybe just the time wasn't right. The
Yeah.
idea was right, but it could be too early, and that's dangerous too, right? And
Yeah.
so when someone pushes back on your idea, it's not a bad thing. It actually gives you time to restudy it and
Yeah.
make it even better. And then you
Yeah.
have to have the tenacity and the resilience to keep, if you really think that this is the right thing to do, to press onwards. I
Yeah.
mean, when I was doing development at Disney, I used to have to go up against things like, do you want to build this beautiful hotel, or do you want to, create Mary Poppins Returns? I think it's this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that taught me, literally, that's probably what Disney taught me the most of, is that resilience and tenacity are everything.
Yeah.
Because the ones that are most resilient and most tenacious are the ones that are actually going to get the project approved.
Yeah.
And so people have a million great ideas, but maybe the budget doesn't allow right now.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's competing priorities across the enterprise. So for anybody
Yeah.
that's listening, it doesn't mean your idea is bad.
Yeah.
Just take it back, reshape it, and try again and never give up. Because
Yeah.
if you truly in your heart believe in it, go fight for it. Get it across
Yeah.
the line, right? I
I
think that's
love
how
that.
great hotels are made.
Has there ever been an instance where you felt so passionate about something and maybe a leader with more experience not shut it down, but said like, "Oh, it's not the right time for this," and kinda gave you some education on why, and did it change your mind? Like, "Oh, you know what? Good point, I hadn't thought about that." Or do you feel like you've always just taken the other approach, kind of reshaped and come back to that idea?
No, I think I've always gotten feedback when my idea didn't move forward. So there
Yeah,
was reason, right? And I
right.
needed to learn the reason why. And so the more knowledge I could get from that, the better it would go next time.
Yeah.
I li- I mean, I've hit a pause button for years before and then come
Yeah.
back with an idea with the same
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Right? In it's like 2016, I pitched the one thing we have to do is make travel easy. And everyone thought it was ludicrous. And now everybody talks about frictionless travel. I'm like,
Friction, yeah.
should have been owning that in 2016. Should have trademarked that.
I love it. Something else I love that you mention is the architecture of memory.
Yeah.
And we've talked a lot about the guest experience and how services needs to be unparalleled, but how do you intentionally design moments that guests will remember instead of only delivering good service? Like, how do you match those two things up?
Wow, this is such an important question that I think about all the time.
Yeah.
And so we started this conversation with me telling you about a little 5-year-old girl that had such a strong memory of an
Yeah.
occasion when I went to tea with my dad at the Ritz Carlton in Boston that my entire adult career is spent because of that moment. So it's
Yeah.
very powerful when it happens.
Yeah.
And I talk about the architecture of it because it is architecture.
Mm.
And science proves that you actually have to activate 3 of the senses. So it could be smell, taste, touch, whatever they
Yeah.
are, you've got to activate those 3 things.
Yeah.
So whatever you're doing, whether it's a lounge or a restaurant or an activity by the pool, are those 5 senses aligned? Are they well?
Yeah.
Does it smell right? Does it feel right?
Yeah.
Is the music right? Right? And so
Mhm.
is the lighting right in the restaurant, or is it weirdly bright or so dark you
You
can never
can't.
read the menu, right? There's got to be that perfect amount. And that
Yeah.
stuff's hard and you have to check it every day. That's the
Mhm.
first element of architecture. And the rest of it is about how are you doing those things that either surprise and delight or
Mhm.
ritualize an experience.
I
So
love
either
that.
you're
Never heard
not
that term before. I
expecting
love
it,
that, ritualize.
right? So you're either not expecting it, it's a cold day in Manhattan, and all of a sudden the team's at the door with hot chocolate as everybody enters,
Love it.
right? It's such a beautiful, no one expected it, no one
Yeah.
asked for it, it just showed up. And it's this moment of whimsy that just makes you feel good no matter how your day went.
Yeah.
And then you have rituals. And rituals are moments that become part of the ethos of who you are. And so
Yeah.
is it the way that we open the bay or close the bay in
Mhm.
the evening? Is that a
Yeah.
morning ritual and an evening ritual?
Yeah.
Is it something that happens? It could be as simple as I remember Ritz back in when I first started, everybody had to change into tuxedo at night. Like, right? Like
Really? I don't
literally the
remember that.
entire hotel tucked up and went at
Amazing.
night because you were going into this different moment. But is it the way your candles are lit?
Yeah.
Is there something about a moment that you lean into that makes people believe it's magic?
I
And
love
I will
that.
tell you, Half Moon Bay at the Ritz Carlton did something so lovely. So pipers coming off the green at sunset aren't that unusual. You see that, but they
Yeah.
coupled it with the lighting of the fire pits all at the same time. So the
My
pipers are coming off the
gosh.
green, they're playing, right? The sun is setting and all the fire pits are being lit. And people still talk about this all the time, and it's 20 plus
Yeah.
years later.
Yeah.
But think about there wasn't that much of an effort
Right.
there.
A low lift, but
Right? It was a
really
low lift, but it
yeah.
was incredibly creative. And
Love it.
so if you do those 2 things together consistently, if you actually make sure that those senses are alive and you capture that at key elements during your stay and you ritualize a few things,
Yeah,
then you nail it.
I
And
love it.
that's the architecture of memory.
It reminds me of a stay at the Four Seasons in the Nye, and they light all of the tiki torches by fire at sunset, and then they have someone blow the shell, and every single night, and it's amazing, and people gather to watch it happen, and it is totally a ritual, and again, something that's pretty low lift. They're just lighting tiki torches and blowing in a shell, but it's truly magical, and I think something else that sticks out to me is celebrating the place or the destination. So creating a stronger connection to where you are. And so something like that that was so uh, rich in culture, you can tell you're somewhere else or you remember the feeling of being in that destination. And I think some of my best hotel memories have done that really well too. It's something special that they do, but that's also connected to the destination.
Yeah, I think when you can do that, you pull the ritual, right? You
Yeah.
you pull it so strongly, it becomes really part of their brand narrative. I mean,
Yeah.
it becomes that strong that it's
Yeah.
part of the brand.
Yeah. 100%. Um, something else that you talk a lot about is relational wellness is the next big trend.
Yeah.
Can you expand a little bit on what that means to you and what you expect to see in the hospitality space?
Yeah, it's interesting. I love this one because up until now, people have always said that wellness is about you as a person, your body, your
Mm,
soul, your mindset, right? Your
yeah.
health, all of that. But it's something focused on you.
Yeah.
And suddenly the Surgeon General came out with score of our next epidemic. And
Mm,
that epidemic is loneliness. And so people are up X%. It's a big number on screen time.
yeah.
And people are down almost that same amount on togetherness time.
Wow.
And so, what relational wellness does is promote those moments of togetherness. Those
Yeah.
moments that you just had with your family
Yeah.
over the holidays, at your parents with the chickens and
Yeah.
your 3-year-old, those are the moments that matter. That's the togetherness that I'm talking about. And so we custom built Evermore to be about togetherness, and that's relational wellness. That's
That's amazing.
how do you have permission to take time for you because you know your family's okay doing
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. How
Yeah.
do you actually then reconnect together along the shores of Evermore Bay and spend the afternoon together? Do
Amazing.
you give yourself permission to go to the spa,
Yeah.
right, mom, because you deserve it? And then you come back with a grill master at your home
Yeah.
where they light the fire pit and you sit around it and eat s'mores late into the night. You let your 3-year-old stay up way
Yeah.
past her bedtime, but she's going to actually at 3 have this memory of
Yeah.
doing something special. And the thought of her vacations with her family is going to matter.
Yeah.
And that's
Mm.
relational wellness. And so it's time now that we look at togetherness as part of
Yeah.
the entire wellness journey, and that's
Mhm.
what we're built for. We're built to celebrate that. So you get to have choice of moments and you come out feeling replenished by
Yeah.
being with others that you love.
Amazing. And I think that that just inherently lends itself to having them come back again and again and again, which is really what you want when you're building a brand is those almost like they kind of become brand ambassadors where then they're telling everyone, "Oh my gosh, no, we can all stay together. Someone comes to the house to cook for us. They still have all of the amenities that you want when you're looking for a resort and the location is unmatched." Like
Right.
what could be better?
Yeah, I found it so interesting that we built our first Evermore in Orlando, which is the family capital of the world, right? Like it literally is. And so, boy, throw your feet into the fire because it's
Yeah.
coming because this is the family capital of the world. And we're
Yeah.
building something for togetherness travel. And that's what we've learned over the last couple of years because we're just going into year 3 right now that this is something really special and
Yeah.
meaningful for people.
And
And
I think what
maybe at
people
times,
crave.
yeah, it is what people crave, especially now. And maybe Times as innkeepers, we often remember the person but forget the group they're with. And
Yeah.
so it's a chance to recalibrate that
Yeah.
and create a new way of traveling and a new way of experiencing
Yeah.
destinations in and of themselves.
Well, and just the thoughtfulness behind it from what you've shared about even just little things like making it more approachable for kids with cool bunk rooms. And because I think that's something as someone with a young child, I mean, she's 3, it can be kind of hard when we stay certain places. And if, when she was smaller, there's stairs, but there's no baby gates. Now I'm just chasing her up and down, and I'm not really getting to enjoy my time with family. And so I think just the thoughtfulness that has gone into it is going to be a game changer. Cause I think sometimes I think it can feel stressful for families with kids to want to go and do this. There's that viral meme that's like, no, it's not a vacation. You're just parenting in a new
Yeah,
destination, which
100%. You know
which
what's
is
interesting
true, but
though is that, group travel works for families, but it also works for friends.
yeah.
And I found that it also works for colleagues. So shortly
Mhm.
after I started, I hosted a board meeting. And the part of the company, actually, we stayed in a house together.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own bedrooms, they're locked,
Right.
all of that, but I didn't really know anybody at the time, so I was like, "Okay, great. Is this gonna be weird?" It was amazing, and
Yeah.
I got to know everybody so well because we were laughing together at midnight instead of
Yeah.
secluded in our own hotel rooms, right? And so I
So
walked away
true.
feeling so much more connected because that social space mattered so much.
Yeah.
It was great for me to see that firsthand about how it transformed,
Mhm.
the stay. We could have put the group at the Conrad, we didn't. We put the group together for a reason. Or, let me
Yeah.
back up. My boss put the group together for a reason.
No, but it's so true. I mean, when we have our team retreats, we're always gathered till probably too late in the lobby, and it's great, but it's not the most convenient or the most comfortable. So to be able to have a space where you all still have the complete privacy of your own room, your own bathroom, you can still retreat to have that kind of wind down time, but then still be together is really just the magic.
Yeah, I just reflect back to it and go, I wouldn't have known my peer set in my new company the way I do today if
Yeah.
those 2 nights hadn't happened,
Yeah.
right?
Amazing.
It's very special. Yeah.
Love that. All right. Well, just to wrap it up, if you could go back and tell your younger self one thing about this industry, what would it be?
Oh my god, you're gonna love this so much. We're so lucky to have found it. I also would have reminded my young self that it's a marathon, not a sprint. So give
Yeah.
yourself, right? Give yourself the grace
Yeah.
of time and balance, because I did not know growing up. I did not understand that at all, and so give yourself that kind of grace. I would
Yeah.
also tell myself that be brave, because so many times you're gonna think you're not worthy of XYZ,
Yeah.
so be brave and confident. And then I would have just said, you're entering the best industry in the
Mm,
world. Grab it with
love it.
both hands and love it to death.
I love it. Such good words of advice, words of wisdom. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being with us today and just all of the amazing insights that you've shared. I think this is an amazing industry, but it can be tough. And so to just feel your passion and love for it was invigorating for me. And I know our listeners will feel the same way. So thank you so much for being on. And I cannot wait to make it down to Evermore. It's
Yes,
top of
can't
my
wait to
list.
have you. Can't wait to have you, and thank you so much. What a way to start off the new year. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you back on so we can get more insights and tips from you.
Perfect. Sounds good.
And if you want to check out more Foundry Talks, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.